14 researchers entered. 3 came out. The year was 1981. A joint Brazilian-American scientific survey team pushed into a remote stretch of the Amazon basin, a region locals had a name for that didn't translate cleanly into English. The closest approximation? The place that swallows. The survivors never filed a full report. What fragments exist are buried in a universal archive in Sao Paulo, classified not for national security, but according to the filing notes, to prevent panic. That was 40 years ago. Since then, at least 9 more expeditions have entered the same corridor of jungle. The pattern never changes. The western Amazon basin sits at the convergence of 3 river systems, the Joá, the Javari, and the Upper Purus. It is one of the most biologically dense regions on the surface of the earth. Dense is almost the wrong word. This is a place where 2.5 million insect species share a canopy so thick that the forest floor receives less than 2% of available sunlight, where a single hectare of soil contains more microbial organisms than there are stars in the observable universe. Where it rains, on average over 3 meters every year, and humidity rarely drops below 85%. It is hot, not in a way that is difficult to describe, not warm, not even tropical, metabolic. The heat here has weight. It presses. It accelerates everything. Growth, decay, infection, death. The jungle is not a backdrop, it is an active system. From above, it looks almost peaceful. An infinite green canopy stretching to the horizon in every direction, interrupted only by brown arteries of slow-moving water. Satellite imagery gives no indication of what lives below. No indication of what happens there. The nearest permanent settlement is over 400 kilometers away. There are no roads, no communication towers, no extraction route that doesn't involve at least 6 days of river travel. If something goes wrong here, it goes wrong completely. The first documented scientific casualty came in 1925, though most people know it by a different name. Colonel Percy Fawcett, British explorer, decorated veteran, obsessive. He entered the Mato Grosso region of the Brazilian Amazon in April of that year, along with his son Jack and a close friend named Rayleigh Rimmel. Their goal was a lost city he called Z. They sent one final letter from a camp near the upper Xingu River. It read in part, "You need have no fear of failure." They were never seen again. Fawcett was experienced, meticulous. He had survived 7 previous Amazon expeditions and yet nothing. No bodies, no camp, no trace. The disappearance triggered a wave of rescue attempts. At least 13 separate expeditions went looking for Fawcett between 1927 and 1955. Several of those researchers also disappeared. Others returned with illnesses that doctors at the time could not identify. One survivor, a Hungarian journalist named Stefan Rotten, claimed he had Fawcett alive, imprisoned by a tribe white-haired, barely recognizable. Rotten re-entered the jungle in 1935 to find him again. He was never seen again either. In 1966, a Brazilian rancher named James Lynch organized a more modern expedition, equipped with the GPS, satellite phones, and a full medical support. His team was captured and held by the Kalupalu tribe. They were released eventually, but 2 members of the expedition had already died by the time they got out. Causes listed as undetermined systematic failure. Then there was the 2017 case. A scientific survey team from the University of Brasilia entered a region designated only as the Corridor 7 on internal maps. They were tracking fungal biodiversity, a relatively routine field study, 4 researchers, full equipment, and a 6-week itinerary. After 3 weeks, contact was lost. A search team found 2 members alive at the river's edge. Both were severely dehydrated. One had injuries consistent with the fall. Neither could provide a coherent account of the previous 18 days. The other 2 were never found. The university statement described the expedition as an incomplete data collection event. That is the official record. So what is actually killing people here? The answer, or rather the collection of answers, is one of the most disturbing things modern biology has uncovered about tropical ecosystems. Start with the simplest layer. Orientation collapse. The jungle canopy eliminates solar navigation entirely. GPS fails routinely in dense forest where signal multipath interference from the canopy creates positioning errors up to 40 meters, enough to put a team on the wrong side of the river and the wrong drainage basin, moving away from safety while believing they are moving toward it. Researchers have documented cases where experienced field teams walked in loops for days, each circuit slightly different, each one convincing them that they were making progress. The mind doesn't register that it is lost. That's what makes it lethal. Then, of course, there is biology. The Amazon basin is home to more species of pathogenic fungi than anywhere else on the earth. Among them, a deadly spore-forming organism that lives in the soil, and when inhaled, it can cause a sickness that mimics tuberculosis in its early stages. By the time symptoms are severe enough to impair function, the infection has been active for weeks. The organism thrives specifically in the disturbed soil that human movement creates, meaning the act of walking through the jungle literally increases the concentration of the pathogen around you. But that is not the most alarming discovery. In 2019, a survey of the Upper Jewel corridor uncovered 4 previously unknown species of Ophiocordyceps, the fungal genus better known as zombie fungus. The most infamous member of this group, Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, is known for infecting insects and altering their behavior with remarkable precision. What received for less attention was another discovery. Closely related species found in the same region were detected in mammalian tissue samples, not just in small mammals, not just in rodents, in primates as well. The implications remain uncertain, but the findings suggest that the reach of these fungi may extend far beyond the insects for which they are known. The mechanism for which these fungi alter host behavior in insects is chemical, specifically compounds that interfere with the host's central nervous system, overriding voluntary motor control. In the 4 new species found in 2019, the chemical signatures were structurally novel, unknown, unclassified. Researcher on that survey, Dr. Anna Kovala from INPA, Brazil's National Institute for Amazon Research, published one paper on the findings and then, according to colleagues, requested an extended break. She has not published since. The paper's conclusion reads, "Further investigation of neurological compounds in the identified specimens is strongly recommended before any human enters the zone ever again." That recommendation has not been formally implemented yet. Beyond the fungal problem, there is their environmental load and heat. A body operating in 35-degree heat with 90% humidity burns approximately 40% more calories per hour than in temperate conditions. Field rations almost never accounts for this accurately. Caloric deficit compounds over days, decision-making degrades, then orientation, then muscle coordination, then basic survival function. The jungle does not need one catastrophic event to kill a team. It simply needs time. And then, there are the tribes. The Javari Valley is home to the highest concentration of uncontacted indigenous people on Earth. An estimated 16 groups who have no sustained contact with the outside world. Some are known to be actively hostile to intrusion, having repelled contact attempts with arrows and, in documented cases, fatal force. The Brazilian government has designated large sections of this corridor as legally protected territory. Entry without authorization is a criminal offense. Several of the expeditions that went missing had no authorization. Here is where the picture changes. In 2022, a team of remote sensing researchers at the University of Exeter analyzed 2 decades of litter satellite data over the western Amazon corridor. Litter, light detection, and ranging can penetrate the canopy and map what lies beneath. What they found overturned a foundational assumption about this region. Beneath the jungle floor, in multiple locations across what was previously mapped as unoccupied forest, they identified geometric structures, earthworks, platforms, enclosed plazas, drainage systems, not ruins, not ancient rubble, intact infrastructure. The structure spans hundreds of kilometers. They are connected, and they predate European contact by at least thousands of years, suggesting a civilization of potentially millions of people that have existed there. They were thriving, complex, and organized. And then, they vanished so completely that the jungle consumed every surface trace. Fawcett wasn't delusional. Z, his lost city, may have been a cultural memory of something real. Something that had been swallowed so entirely that the jungle itself became its tomb. But here's a detail that researchers struggle to explain. The locations of the discovered structures correlate almost precisely with the areas of the highest expedition fatality. Not loosely, precisely. The LIDAR survey team noted that this internal document that has since circulated among Amazon researchers, their hypothesis: the civilization that built these structures may have engineered the surrounding ecosystems as a form of territorial defense, cultivating specific plants and fungal species, manipulating drainage to concentrate disease vectors, building a living parameter that remained lethal long after the buildings themselves were gone. The jungle, in this interpretation, is not a passive killer. It was designed to be one. Dr. Cavallo's unpublished data from 2019 fungal survey has never been made public. the University of Brasilia's records from the 2017 Corridor 7 expedition remain sealed. The true surviving members of that team have given no interviews. There are 11 active research proposals currently pending Brazilian government approval for surveys in this region. All 11 have been sitting in review without response for more than 2 years. The jungle still sits there. The structures are still there. And every year, the canopy just grows. Maybe the deaths are explicable. Maybe it is heat and infection and bad navigation and the kind of terrible luck that wilderness amplifies. Or perhaps maybe there is a rational chain from cause to effect and the pattern only looks sinister because humans are very good at finding pattern in chaos. Maybe something was built here, long ago, that understood something we still don't. Something that understood that the most effective defense is not one that destroys, but one that confuses, that disorients, that makes intruders feel for just long enough that they know exactly where they are. The jungle has been studied for centuries, mapped, surveyed, cataloged, and it is still killing the people who try. Because in a place like this, some questions remain unanswered, not because we haven't looked, but because the jungle hasn't let us.